Yeah, we're live.
Okay, there it goes. All right, everybody, what's up? Episode 5 of the TorqueTalk Podcast with Rick and Randy, myself, and co-host or main host Powers Jeremy. Sorry, I'm not the main guy. But anyway, we're here today. We're with B-Dogs. Everybody give a warm welcome to Mrs. B-Dogs. And today we got a kind of a little bit of an interesting episode as compared to our previous ones, and not to discredit our previous guests, but we've got a lot to unpack with you here, B-Dogs. You've got connections in the real racing world, connections in the GTA circle. It's unbelievable. So we're happy you're with us today. So to kick us off here, you're a connoisseur of sort of the whole Grand Theft Auto franchise. So we were talking before we started going live here. You played your first Grand Theft Auto at 3 years old.
Yeah, that was GTA Vice City at 3 years old. I went into my brother's room and I thought I was playing Madden 04 because the cover said it was Madden 04, and whoever would put the wrong game in the wrong case. And
I'm pretty sure we all
Vice City.
did.
So I started playing Vice City. Had no idea what was going on. I stole a car, had fun with the car, and I thought it was a race car game at first. And then I realized I was running pedestrians over, and had no idea what I was doing. I was just driving around, having fun. My dad came in, thought nothing of it, besides it was just maybe Need for Speed or something. And then, next thing I know, my stepbrother came home and told me that I was playing GTA Vice City. And I probably shouldn't be playing it, but then he taught me how to play the game. And I had a lot of fun on the game. Beat the game about a year after the fact. And as time went on, I ended up finding San Andreas in his room and started playing it. And that's where my addiction to this game started. From there, I beat San Andreas, and I had probably well over 1,000 hours in both games each year until GTA 4 came out, and I started playing it, and that's when I first got introduced to online gaming. Well, when I started playing online, everybody that's ever played online when they're older now knows people that are kids online are annoying as hell with their voices.
That's the truth. GTA Online.
I couldn't figure out why people kept kicking me from lobbies, and eventually one day I didn't realize that my mic stopped working. Well, I started kicking everyone's ass in the lobby. Well, then they started asking me to talk, and that's when I realized the mic stopped working, and they got mad that they were all being beat in Cops and Crooks or Team Deathmatch or GTA races by a 7-year-old. I think I was 7 at the time. I might have been 8. And that obviously didn't sit very well with them. And as time went on, I ended up running into Bruffy on there. I only raced with Bruffy a handful of times on GTA 4. He's not what he is now. As a matter of fact, I don't even think he recorded videos at that point. He was just someone that liked racing, that played a racing game.
And as far as like racing in GTA 4, I had no idea that racing in GTA 4 even existed up until recently. Like, what was that? What did that all entail? Like, what was it like? What kind of racing was there? I'm sure it wasn't as like organized as it is nowadays. I know you couldn't create tracks back then, but just like what was the racing scene in GTA 4 like?
GTA 4 was quite literally, people would host a lobby and just see who the hell gets in. Whether it be people that are fast, people that aren't fast, people that you need to kick. It was just have fun and race, really. There wasn't anything serious behind it. And obviously, when the lobby ended, if there was somebody that was just wrecking the whole lobby, if it was a race that people wanted to race cleanly, on GTA 4 you could just kick somebody. You didn't have to vote to kick them.
What kind of
Which
tracks
actually,
were you racing on? Like, are these custom tracks or Rockstar tracks? Or...
these were all Rockstar created tracks. So it would be like Drag Kings by Rockstar, which is it's the track that gave Bruffy the idea to host Drag Kings at Los Santos. Star Junction, which was a race in Times Square. I don't remember the rest of the tracks' names. I just remember having fun on them. But they were all very basic tracks that had checkpoint placement that's about as awful as Rockstar tracks now. So nothing has changed in the last 15 years.
So I did last night actually on my stream. I did a mission in GTA 4 where you have to race in the streets, and it was like, it reminded me of like any like early age Rockstar created GTA Online track where it's just checkpoints, and if you run into a lamppost or if you run into traffic, have fun with that. I'm assuming that's pretty much what these tracks were like, just like, you know, running through the streets of
Yeah, it was
New York, Liberty City.
It was very basic, running through the streets of Liberty City, and it all really made no sense because the tracks weren't exactly the greatest. They had tons of crossovers. They weren't meant to be taken serious in any aspect, but neither is GTA 5 Racing, and we all take it serious because it's fun. And as time went on, I kind of grew out of GTA 4 Racing and went to Cops and Crooks on GTA 4 because that was the big thing at that point. And as I'm racing Cops and Crooks, as I'm playing Cops and Crooks, I'm just having a lot of fun doing that, and I really had no idea what I was doing, to be honest. Like, I was just following what everybody else did, because when you're a 9-year-old, you don't know what's going on.
I would not have known. I'm assuming we're probably the same age, like in the same age range. I didn't even know there was online gaming when I was 9 years old. So.
Yeah, well, the only reason I knew is because that same stepbrother handed me the controller and told me go.
Here you go, run
go
crazy.
Play and beat everybody, and I did. And as I got older, I kind of got out of online gaming and focused a lot more back on the 3D era of GTA, and got back into playing San Andreas, which is where I went back and 100%ed it finally. Went back to Vice City and 100%ed it, and then GTA 5 came out. And GTA 5 was the game that everything took off. It's the most played product in history for gaming, basically.
I read a thing. It was like it's the second most sold video game in history. GTA 5 is. I don't even want to know what GTA 6 is going to do. That's going to be a wild number. But not to like get too off topic, but this, I don't know if this is too early to ask this or not, but like, out of all the GTAs that you played, and you're telling me you did a stream a couple years ago where you 100%ed every single one in order.
Yep.
Which is your favorite?
My favorite. Let's see. My favorite to play is either Vice City or San Andreas. Both of them have very well laid out maps and a very well laid out storyline. And the characters that you play and meet as them are very deep. You feel like you're involved in the story when you play those two games. Where GTA 5, it just feels like you're watching a movie.
I agree with that.
Yeah.
GTA 5 is probably fourth highest on my list, with third being GTA 4. I can't separate Vice City and San Andreas. They're just two insanely great games.
I'm at some point I'm gonna have to go back and play all the 3D. I started GTA San Andreas, but never actually got through it. But I mean, it's completely different. The San Andreas in that game is completely different than the San Andreas in the HD universe, which is cool. It's still like, I mean, it's still got a really good storyline, I think, compared
It's
to
got an insane storyline.
the others.
But GTA San Andreas and Vice City, the games just felt right. Where GTA 5, something just feels incomplete on the story. And I don't know what causes it.
It's like, oh
be...
no, someone got betrayed. Didn't see that coming.
Yeah, exactly. And
compared to the other GTA stories where you really don't see it coming when it happens.
no. And the only way that you know it's coming is if you either A, played the game, or B, just can predict things that well.
Like I'm playing, like I said, I'm playing through GTA 4 right now, and some of the stuff, it's pretty much the only GTA story I never delved into and read about, like before I played. So like right now I'm almost halfway through the game. It's like, wow, it's a really good story. I makes me even want to go back and play Vice City or any of the other ones from the the 3D universe.
It's a story that pulls you back into wanting to play the older games. Ballad of Gay Tony and Lost and Damned are two very great story expansions that they did, which are what we were supposed to get with
5. Should have got
GTA
one.
5. And one of those was supposed to be what became the Doomsday Heist. That was supposed to be Agent Trevor. And then another one was the Cayo Perico heist, which was, I believe, supposed to be Michael's. And I can't remember what the other one was.
I'd imagine it has to do something with the agency thing with Franklin. Franklin gets his own.
Yeah, it's got to be
casting
something
agency,
along those lines.
whatever it is.
But I wish that we would have been able to get those. But looking back on it, I don't know how it would have went if they would have tried to continue GTA 5 at that point, like GTA Online. Because obviously,
GTA Online just became a massive, juggernaut of a cash cow. It's crazy how much money it's still making. It's brilliant in a way, but it's almost like, man, how much longer can you keep, milking this?
GTA
it's crazy.
5, I have no idea how it became the size that it did.
I think it was right place, right time, to be honest.
I
think that's really all there is to it as far as that. It was released at kind of a point where let's play gaming, YouTube, all like these streamers were coming out and let's players were coming out really big time, and when you add online to this, you give people a sandbox like what Los Santos and GTA Online is. It turned into what it turned into.
Yeah, it definitely turned into something way more than I think any of us thought it would in 2013.
I think the user content, created content, has maybe not a lot to do with that, but has a big part in that as well. You're able to create custom races. That's the reason the racing community still exists, in my opinion. So I think that's a big part of it as well.
Yeah, I agree.
It's 100% probably the biggest part, because every community succeeded more from user-created content. You have the deathmatch community; all of them made specifically concrete, no rooftops, or trapped in concrete was a big one for them, and that was a remake of Rockstar's job, Concrete. Well, As time went on, people started making more jobs for death matches, which were just ARs only, because that's what the deathmatch community wanted. And now that we can ban bulletproof helmets, we do that. And then the last team standing community didn't really exist, but it found its home with snipers versus stunners, RPGs versus insurgents, RPGs bowling, stuff like that. And then you have the racing community has succeeded from whether it be stunt racing, the oval races that we make here in Torque, the real life recreations, the street races that we get. Everything has grown from just this content creator. And I mean, yeah, there's the free mode grinders still, but a lot of those guys really only last for about a year or so playing the game, and then go find something better to do just because there's a lack of content.
Yep. I could not agree more with what you said. So speaking of creator, you are also a tester for the community verified program for Bruffy. I know we're kind of jumping ahead a little bit, and we could backtrack after this if you'd like.
Okay.
How did you get involved into that? What are your thoughts on that? And Night Angel wants to know, when's the next B-Dogs track dropping?
Whenever I get motivation to use the creator again. Because I have a lot of tracks that I've always wanted to make, and well, Angel, you've seen me create. It's not the prettiest. Hey, I made a few tracks, but they weren't exactly the greatest track quality. As a matter of fact, I had one that I made that one of my friends, Bros, who was very close to me back in 2017, and I'm still friends with him now, I made a track that he liked, but my propping wasn't exactly the greatest, so he remade the track on his account and used a creator tag with my name in it. And from that, I got into Community Verified when he first started, which was, I believe, in 2017? Either 2017 or 16, I can't remember. But he named 10 people to be testers on each platform and reached out to me because of the fact that at that point I was doing 5 to 6 events every weekend, and I was hosting 3 to 4 playlists a week and stuff like that. So I don't know really like the creator aspect of it, but I know a lot of like what makes a track raceable and what doesn't.
Like what it takes to have a good raceable track, as long as it's raceable.
And I also have like a very fondness for people that have artistic ability. Specifically, one that comes to mind was Smax's Take It to Church. That track was awful for racing, but it looked immaculate. Looks-wise, that track would get a 5 all day long. Raceability-wise, it would get about a 2.5. However, I would probably give that track now still around a 4, maybe a 4.5. Just based on, one, the artistic ability. He built an entire church that you're racing in.
Oh, I'll have to check it. I've never heard of this track. I'll have to.
If anybody's got a link to that, send it to Chatter, one of the channels.
It's an Xbox track. I'll find a video for it later in the podcast or whatever.
Yeah.
If you remind me. But it was an immaculate track, and that's something that a lot of testers fail to realize is not all tracks are going to be event tracks. Not all tracks are going to be playlist tracks. Not all tracks are going to be what they want. You have to meet the medium between what is raceable and what the creator's vision is. Because some creators have a vision for a track that's not going to match anybody else's. Others have a vision that's going to match everybody else's. It's just, you have to find that perfect medium between the two. And
definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
Some tracks meet that, some don't.
what's your opinion on like how the whole CV program is kind of organized, like what it takes to have this kind of track or that kind of track? How do you what's your opinion on how it's done, how the process goes?
There can be a lot of better ways of doing it, but I don't really know how to do it better, just because he doesn't have the sheer volume amount of tracks that are being submitted to do it in a way that would make it make sense. Because unfortunately, let's not sugarcoat it. The game is going downhill popularity wise. On PC, I can probably open the sheet right now, and I think we had 40 total submissions this wave, and we had 33. And of that, we found only 3 that were good enough. And a lot of them were just because of the fact that it's somebody that watches a Bruffy stream and throws stuff together that they really don't know what it does, and submit the track. And unfortunately, that just clogs up the testing process, because you get a track that is made with propping that is, a little less than ideal. Because you'll get. There was a track I tested last year that there were blue fences in the middle of the track, and they weren't props that were blacklisted from the game. This was somebody that literally used the blue fence as his AK.
As like a prop.
Yeah.
And it's just something that you can't really do. I mean, you can, but it's not going to go that well, I guess.
So how do you let's say we're in the world where B-Dogs is in charge of the CV program. How do you get it to the point to where you go from 40 submissions per wave to 140 submissions per wave? How do you build the program for GTA 6? Because it seems like right now is the time to lay the foundation for that.
I definitely go to a lot of different groups and promote myself. And the best way to do a community verified, I honestly wholly think that you should open it up to more than just racing. You should allow deathmatch creators and stuff like that, because
good point.
There's only so many race creators that are out there, and I do agree that you should only have one creator per wave, like one track per creator per wave, so that way everybody gets their fair shot. Creators out there that make just death matches, that make just captures, that make just last team standings, or some of the people that go into survival creator and remake zombies maps from BO2. There's so many talented people out there that we just don't realize who they are. And there was a crew a long time ago that used to have a creator showcase. It was Global Content Creators, or GCCC.
Mm-hmm.
And they were, I think I put too many C's in there. I don't know. They were a great crew.
I think there's 3. I think there's 3 C's.
But the issue is they didn't promote themselves. They kind of just stayed off in their own spot, and the popularity went away, and now I think they still exist now. Because I believe I've seen some of the playlists recently.
They do. They still exist. So I actually have a follow-up question now. So it made me think, okay, so if you submit one submission or, one track, as it be now, per wave, let's say, for instance, someone submits their track and it's a 3 or a 3.5, so, it's okay, but it needs some improvement to be verified, right? So how was...
Yeah.
It seems like the process now is you have to fix it and then wait until the next wave to repost it and try to get it submitted on the next wave. I think, in my opinion now, if you were to provide the feedback, this is how you could get it to a 4. Why wouldn't you allow that person to correct said feedback and then possibly get it verified for that wave? It seems like that would be a lot more streamlined and keep a lot more people involved.
Yeah, I agree with that. But there's got to be a way of doing it to where people can't just recreate the same track 7 times. Because you got to find the happy way of doing it where people can update their tracks and resubmit it in the same wave, but also not abuse the system. Because you could just as easily have somebody go through and change one thing and go, okay, now I want my track retested, and it's not even close to good enough.
Fair. That's a fair point.
Which is where you run into that issue. Because I don't know if there even is a good way of doing it, to be honest. Just because of the nature of how people are now, where it's just, give me attention, I need it now.
Or like if you say, here's what needs to be fixed if you want this verified, and
yeah,
someone may not take that the way it probably should be taken.
Yeah.
You could have problems there.
Of course, the majority of people don't have the give me attention, I need it now mentality. But it's those few that do have that mentality that it kind of ruins it for everybody. And Hippie actually just made a great point in chat. If you make a tier list or leagues or divisions, something that you could do would be any track that's over a 3 but not quite to a 4, you'll retest if the creator updates it, and stuff below that, you push it on to the next wave.
Yeah, see, and that's why I had picked 3, because I had kind of forecasted that, and I was like, if you get a 1, that's pretty much start from scratch, right? But a 3, 3.25, 3.5, those are, that seems doable within a 1-wave timeline. I just thought, it's just a random thought that, came to mind there. So anyways, that we kind of fast forwarded a little bit. So let's rewind and let's get back to your introduction to GTA 5 from GTA 4. What were your expectations? What do you think now? We're near the end of it. And yeah, how was the racing scene in the beginning? Get us going there in that time quadrant.
I think that GTA 5, I did not expect it to last this long. Because at that point, all of us that were playing the game were expecting it to last until 2017, and we get a new one. And here we are, 11 years later, still playing the damn game. So racing at that point was the same way as it was in GTA 4, where checkpoints were just placed randomly by Rockstar. And occasionally you would get props and stuff. Unfortunately, a lot of people that started playing at that point, the community died out very quickly. And when we got our first update, which was the Beach Bum update, Content Creator came, I think either shortly before or shortly after. And that's where you saw Bruffy made Drag Kings Los Santos, Party on Paleto Bay, and Los Santos Grand Prix. Which those are 3 of the most well-known tracks of all time. Party on Paleto Bay, not so much, but definitely Drag Kings and LSGP are 2 of the most well-known tracks ever made. And LSGP was the point where we realized that we could actually make tracks that raced like real-life tracks, like real-life street circuits on this game. We got to the point where we would do 5 or 6 races a day on LSGP that were like 10 laps in length and try to get as many randoms as possible that raced cleanly. And at this point, we couldn't turn Slipstream or Ketchup off, so we're stuck with it. There weren't any spoilers on cars. There weren't The game
I
was
did not know that. So bare
the game
bones at
was
that
so
point.
basic and unknown at that point that you had no idea what the hell you were doing. And some races slipstream worked, some it didn't. Some races catch up worked, some races it didn't. Some races your cars would just stop moving. It's just how the game was. And it didn't happen until the business update came out where we got the Turismo, and that's where they added spoilers. Which, it's not the spoiler upgrade, but it's where spoilers added the traction bonus that we know now.
Yeah.
And a lot of cars came into their own at that point, as well as that's also where we figured out that off-road tires provide grip over bumps. Because we had to find something to combat the way that the Turismo drove, because no matter what speed you drove it at, if you hit a curb, you were flying. And that's how we learned that. We then continued into 2014 a little more. Bruffy hosted MCEC, and that's when I kind of fell out of the community for a while. I got deep into hosting car shows and drifting. So I kind of didn't race for a while, but I still kept tabs on like what was being made and would host my own playlists with my friends. And then the Xbox One version of the game came out, and I went over to there. Well, I started streaming on there, hosted a bunch of car shows, and I would get 25 to 30 people a night in my car shows. And eventually I had one of the people from Bruffy Streams come in, and he asked, why don't you just host Bruffy Verifieds after your car meets? Because everybody here likes to race. Why don't we do that and then go do long haul? Because the tradition at that point was we would do long haul for like 2 hours after our car meets were over. So we then moved on to doing Bruffy Verified, and my addiction for racing came back. Just because I realized how much the community had moved on at this point. And this is September of 2015. And I'm still racing, like, with other crews, but not deeply involved. I'm joining playlists for IMPR, which was impromptu racing. I'm joining playlists for Nodo. So I was joining a lot of random playlists at that point. Another crew called Red Rum, GTA Race Crew, I was joining their playlists.
And if I could just like step in here for a second, like to be clear, this is all on Xbox, correct?
Yes, this is all on Xbox.
And yeah, because I was about to say, because Nodo was Bruffy's crew, still, kind of, right?
Nodo, Bruffy basically killed Nodo in 2019.
So that could be another thing we can get into.
That's a long story.
Yeah.
But from there I got into racing again, and it took me until summer of 2016 to really start racing again. And this is on Xbox One now. And a guy named Deviator hosted the GT3 series. Well, I joined and had a lot of fun racing on it. And at this point, this is still pre-Stunt Creator. So we're still using just concrete barriers and tire walls.
Yikes. That's all I'm going to say about the tire barriers. The tire barriers are very scary.
It was a rough time. And I didn't do terribly. My first race I got lapped 7 times by Zenvo. My second race I finished 3rd. So there was a lot of
quite
growth
the turnaround.
And I was winning races by the end of the season, so it was an interesting time. But also at that point, nobody was overly quick. Everybody kind of got to the same level, and just at any track on any given day, you knew anybody that was racing regularly had a chance at winning. Because brake boosting didn't exist, short shifting was only just starting, and curb boosting was done, but it wasn't perfected, I guess. Because
this is before the candy cane curbs, and this is just
yes,
street curbs, figuring out what street curbs do, which ones give you the best advantage.
This is also back when we couldn't delete poles. So everyone was scared of going on the sidewalk to get curbs because they would hit a pole. Well, as time went on, we got the stunt creator, and people started making tracks with the stunt creator and realizing that the massive boosts we could get off the racing rumble strips.
Yep.
Well, as that went on, we got even further into making tracks, and tracks just grew immensely with that creator. Some people just remade their old land races, others made insane creations like the stuff you see Night Angel make now.
Mm-hmm.
And it took a long time for people to really figure out what you could do with this creator.
Yeah.
But that is when racing took off. And I started hosting an event about a week after the stunt creator came out called, well, it wasn't really called anything, actually. Me and a guy on Xbox named T1 Dead raced in an event called the Grotti F1 Championship on Xbox. And the last race was at Red, Black, or Green by Deviator. And it was
I remember
a Turismo
watching this,
championship.
actually.
Well, we realized how fun of a combination this was, so we did it as an endurance race that night and invited everybody. Well, we had 28 people. We announced the race 2 minutes before it happened. So it was a 45-minute race, and we're like, you know what, we're going to do it again. So we did it again. 6 more times. And that's kind of where we started doing nightly endurance racing, is what it eventually became called. And we would do 5 to 6 45-minute races a night, or an hour, or however long. And if you want to come in and join, you can, regardless of like how long you wanted to race or how many races you wanted to do. It was just come on, race, have fun. And then as time went on, I went back to school, so I couldn't race. And 2017 came around, we did the same thing. 2018 came around, we did the same thing. And then we get to when I got out of school, I got involved with Children of the Mountain. I got back involved with hosting Grotti F1. And that's when I kind of took off and started streaming more and was invited to some Rockstar streams. Did a few of those. Then Rockstar stopped doing streams altogether, which I wish they'd go back to doing. Because their weekly streams
really
with the community were fun. That was
Imagine if they did that for, like, with our crews, or and they like spotlighted crews and stuff like that. Imagine if they did that now.
Oh, yeah, that would be amazing.
It'd be awesome. And unfortunately, they don't do it. And eventually in 2019, I bought my PC. Well, when I went to PC, I started racing on Project Homecoming, because anybody that raced in 2017 and 18, the thing that they wanted to do was they wanted to go race on 5M. They had random racing. They had all the modded cars, the modded tracks, all that stuff. So it was what everybody wanted to do. And every car that's broken on console was fixed over there, in terms of like the handling flags removed. The Itali GTO doesn't bounce anymore, which one could argue that ruins the fun of the car. It just depends. I actually like both ways of driving it. It's a fun car regardless.
I'm indifferent to it. Yeah. It depends on how, like, what your style is, like what your style of driving is.
Yeah. I have a lot of fun driving the broken GTO. I also have a lot of fun driving the fixed GTO. And also in that time period is when I got into GTA NASCAR. I started doing it in 2015, and what I did was it was the Banshee 900R at that point. No, not even then. It was the T20 at that point is what we were using because all the tracks were just flat out. It didn't matter. So we ended up using the T20 and hosted an Indy 500.
Barges, probably, right?
Barges, I was going to say, are these tracks like with barges?
So the corners were barges.
Yeah.
The straights were the airport runways.
Yeah, yep.
Hell yeah.
And it was called
we should go back to
NASCAR
that.
track. And it was a fun time. And unfortunately, racing just kind of, like NASCAR racing just kind of died out for a bit. Because, I mean, there's only so much you can do with barges. So we did do a lot of races with barges. Nothing more organized than like a one-off 99 lap event with 25 or so of us. And the Stunt Creator came out, and that's where we started hosting Night Shift NASCAR. Night Shift was a crew I was a part of at the time, and we used the Pisswasser Dominator. Just because it was the new car, it had decals on the side, it was fun. Well, then I met a guy named Exterminator, which is now known as Air Exemplary.
Yeah.
And we started racing together on a track made by Crimmins 35, which was Atomic Super Speedway. Which Atomic was a track that was getting over 100,000 plays a week at that point.
Wow.
So we were just meeting people left and right that wanted to race this consistently. And I decided, why don't we just host an event? And I didn't know at the time that they were hosting playlist events already, where they would do 10 to 12 race playlists, and the champion would be decided at the end of that playlist. I said, well, we could do more tracks, because Andretti's brother, which that's Exemplary's name, that's what the AR is his initials. His brother, he was creating tracks at the time, and the tracks weren't the greatest, but it's what we had. And back at that time, you just took what you got. And we were doing his tracks and Crimmins 35's tracks. And we decided we were going to race the Sultan RS, and we did 2 races a week on Friday nights. The races were about 45 minutes in length, is what we shot for. So you would never be in the lobby for more than 2 hours.
Mm-hmm.
And we would end up doing, I think we did a 34 race season that year.
My goodness.
So it was 17 weeks long.
Dang.
2 races on one night. Yeah.
And I missed 6 races straight because of the fact that at that point I was getting heavily involved in real life racing again.
And we'll make sure to get into that here in a little bit, because I think a lot of people would be interested in that.
Randy's itching to get into that.
I'm itching, man.
As time went on, I came back and I had a massive points deficit. It was something insanely stupid. I basically needed to win out to make it into the playoffs. And I got back in the event, won the next 11 races.
Dang.
Which they had a playoffs. I don't know why, but it's just what they wanted to do. And when you have 34 races, you can do that. So the last 10 races were the playoffs, so I won 11 straight races at the end of the season, basically. And we then went into the playoffs. I finished top 3 in almost every race going into the playoffs, and I won the last 6 races. Well, we get to the final race, I'm leading, and I lag out with 2DO. And, of course, it was a Championship 4 format, and that's how I lost the championship.
Oof.
And it was my only time having internet issues that year. And I was very, conspiracy theorist about it, and then I realized that nobody really cared that much. It was a GTA championship. And that's how I've never won a NASCAR championship on GTA.
They're elusive. I
Yeah.
feel you there. Trust me.
I've won IndyCar championships. I've won F1 championships. I've won Rally. I've won an MCEC championship. I've won basically everything you can besides the most simple one, or what you would think would be the most
NASCAR.
simple one.
What team were you on for when you won the MCEC championship?
That was when I was racing for Chihuahua Hot Dogs. So I was racing for Chihuahua Hot Dogs. My teammate was... I don't even remember who the hell my teammate was that year. I had to look.
This has been a long, long time ago.
Which we only won the team's championship. I never won a driver's championship in Brookie's MCEC. But I did win a driver's championship in another crew's MCEC for GT1.
You have pretty much run the gauntlet as far as GTA racing.
I've been through some of the best races, and I've been through some of the worst races.
Recently you've been running your own sort of crew and racing event over on Xbox with
PC
Brickcar, PC now, of course, with Brickcar.
So Brickcar was started because I joined one of my friend Danica Patrick, not the driver. One of my friends, he's actually Canadian, so that he's really not the driver. He might be Paul Tracy in disguise, I don't know. But he hosted an event in his crew called the Apex Burger Sprint Cup Series, which Burger was Ginger Travis's crew, and Apex was his crew. Well, I was a commissioner of both crews, so I decided to join, see what happened. And it wasn't run how I would have liked, but I ended up lapping the entire field. And then a caution came out. Caution came out, I get turned. I got nowhere near the front again. I actually think I rage quit from the event because I was just pissed off. I don't remember. But that gave me the idea that, people actually want this. So I decided that I was going to host the event, and one of my friends, B-Turks, had the same idea at the same time. And me and him were talking that night, and I said I wanted to host a GTA NASCAR championship, and he said that he was going to bring that same thing up to me that night about let's host a GTA NASCAR championship. And that's how Brickcar started. And 3 weeks later actually about a week later is when we started the announcement of like hosting the event. And I think it was about a month later is when we actually did race one. And we didn't have the most amount of people in it, but it was still respectable. I think we had 15 or 16 of us in there. And as the year went on, it got pretty bad just because of people losing interest or people gaining interest. But we ran into a lot of issues with modders early in the season. And then that season ended. It took us about 3 months. We took about 3 months off and came back and hosted an IndyCar championship. Well, the IndyCar championship was in the X80, and it was a lot of fun. And then we moved on and hosted another season of our NASCAR championship, which is in the Gauntlet Hellfire. And now we're just kind of in this waiting game of if we want to host another season or if we want to just wait. Because the PC community is pretty hit or miss. 1 week you could get 25, the next week you'll get 3. And it's just how PC is right now.
So how did you go from, or what made you want to get on the PlayStation side of things? Because that wasn't until recently, correct?
Yeah, it wasn't until I had raced at friends' houses on PS4s and PS3s at the time, and that's how I got event wins on both of them. Was just because I wanted to be a completionist.
How did you who introduced, first of all, what kind of, this is going along the lines of what Jeremy was saying, what made you decide, other than being a completionist, to come over to PlayStation and race? And also, how would you compare your experience on PlayStation to all the other stuff that you've ever done?
So, I wanted to come over here to race because, one, it was the community that had the most people in it. Like, I love racing in this game, and I had a PS5 at one point, and I didn't really use it. So I sold it because the PS5 market was massive at that point. That's when nobody could get them. I think I made $25 over sticker on it or something. It wasn't anything massive. But literally, the week after I sold my PS5, I get a message from Powers Jeremy. And it was an invite to Torque. And if I remember correctly, I think my response is along the lines of, I literally just sold my PS5, where were you a week ago? Or something along the lines of that. And he said, well, buy another one. And it took me about another year, because I just never really found use for one. And one night it was right after I opened my business building PCs for people. And I had made a decent profit off of a PC, and I'm in Best Buy, and I bought my new mic and my new arm that night, and a new headset because my other one broke. And I see a bunch of PS5s on the wall. Well, I made a lot more than I really should have on this PC, but it was also a full sim rig that I built for the guy. And I contemplated it for about 20 minutes and sent my girlfriend a message asking, should I buy this? And she said, I don't know, that's up to you. I came home with the PS5. It wasn't my better judgment, because I an impulse buy of $500 probably isn't the best thing I've ever done in my life, but I've met some of the coolest people doing it. And literally, I bought the PS5, and 3 days later was when TNS Season 10 started. Or was it Season 9? What season are we in? Are we in a 10 or 11?
We're in 11 right now.
Alright, so it was Season 10 that started. And I sent Jerry a message, can I join? And I don't know if I'm supposed to talk about this, but Torque has this rule where you're supposed to watch one race before you join.
Mm-hmm.
And he just waived that for me. Because I was, I guess, me?
Well, because you have, you've done more events than I have. So, I mean, at that point, it's like the same thing could be said for DLJ. I know you guys understand the rules and all that, so it's.
I didn't know how much of it was that, or how much of it was you wanting me to be able to race the full season.
No, it was due to your experience.
And I got in, and I led at Daytona for a bit, and spun myself on Jeremy's bumper.
Yep.
Jeremy got in my way.
Yep, I do recall this.
I don't think I would have won the race, but I kind of impressed myself that I was running up front for once. Because I usually didn't have good experiences in the hot ring at that point. And I ended up racing the season, got a win. I think I finished 10th in points. And
you won Rookie of the Year as well.
Yep, I won Rookie of the Year. And that's when I realized like how chill a lot of the guys on PS5 really were. Um, I became friends with King James, became friends with um, I became friends with DJ loosely through it. He helped me out getting cars a lot early on. Um, and I just met a lot of cool people over here. And something that I've noticed on PS5 is everybody has the same goal of they want to have a very clean race and a very fun race. They don't like obviously everybody wants to win. But they understand if they don't win, they're going to at least race it cleanly and have fun. Where on other platforms, you see a lot of people rage quit when they can't win.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's unfortunate because I used to be on that same crowd, but also I was a 15-year-old. So when you're a 15-year-old, you do a lot of dumb things.
Yeah. So, I mean, I'm glad you brought that up. Because we asked Night Angel the same question, like, what is the comparison of not just, NASCAR racing, but racing in general, from controller to controller to, platform to platform, frame rate, how do you compare it in that regard? And also a question from the live chat, is TNS the most competitive series you've been in? We kind of touched on that earlier as well. So
Yeah.
two for here. How is the comparison in terms of, I guess, performance of the different platforms, and then that series in particular?
TNS is probably the most competitive NASCAR series I've raced in, just because most other series, specifically in Brit Car, there's only about 4 of us that can win a race on any given day. Maybe 5. I mean, you'll have somebody random from the mid pack come up and get a race win, but realistically, there's only 4 or 5 people on any given day that can win a race. Where you go to TNS, and it even got more competitive this season with the addition of Cool Swag and Bear. And you have people that can win on pretty much every given week. You have DJ, you've got Gamerstig. He's had a rough season, but Jason can win on any given day. Leadfoot can win on any given day. Jeremy can win on any given day when he doesn't screw himself over and wreck. Let's see. Bear and Cool Swag can win on any given day. It's just there's a lot of people that can win at any time, and there's also a lot of people that can run up front and just can't seem to close it out. CS Malloy comes to mind.
Mm-hmm.
Allen comes to mind. I don't know if Allen's won a race this season or not. I haven't looked. I think he got a win this season.
He did, yeah.
But there's all these people that run up front that can't close out a race, and it's not because they can't. It's just because they don't have the experience of closing out that race. They're fast enough. They just don't know how to get the run at the right time to close it. Giraffe's another one that can win on any given day. There's a lot of people on any given day that can win on PS5, which makes it very competitive at the front. And you have that all the way down the field. You can be racing for 15th and have 4 people on you. Just because everybody is quick, or everybody is close together, or something along those lines. And then, what was the other part of the question about PS5 to Xbox? Was it how competitive they were, or
I
Just
guess
like overall
both.
experience.
Yeah, overall experience, performance of the different consoles, Xbox, PlayStation, PC.
Which controller do you prefer?
Right now, I prefer probably the PS4 controller, but
Hell
that's
yeah.
because I have a lot of issues with my triggers on my Xbox breaking. Because I slam the triggers a lot, and Xbox can't seem to make a trigger that lasts more than a few months. But also, I've just been using the PS5 controller a lot more. I've been playing Call of Duty on PS5, so it's just what I've gotten used to. But I can usually interchange between the two and be used to them again within about 5 minutes. Where it used to take me hours to be able to switch. But the controller is a big difference. The mentality of people is a big difference. You have a lot of toxicity on PC. Just the I'm better than you, you're, or just being annoying kind of crowd. Because they think that they run the game basically, and then they wonder why their crew dies in a few weeks. And that's just me giving the harsh truth. And I'm not throwing shade at anybody. It's just there's a lot of people that I've seen have that happen to them recently.
Yeah.
And it's not even just one group of people. There's multiple groups of people that have had this happen.
Mm-hmm.
Where they think they get a head on too big, that they think that they are bigger than everybody else and just host over everybody else. And or join everybody else's playlists and will just run you over. Like you don't exist. And we had that issue on Xbox for a long time too. I don't know really what happens on Xbox now because I haven't been on there in 3 years, maybe 4. No, 3. But Xbox was it was that way for a bit, but there were enough places to get away from people that you could just build your own community like what you have here in Torque, and just be off by yourself. I would say the most laid-back community is by far PS5, though. PS5.
You heard that, Xbox fellas? Come on over. There's always room for more.
Yep. And, more than likely GTA 6, will be available to us first as well. So kind of, I guess we're getting into that point of, we're near the end of GTA 5, I would hope.
Yep.
Allegedly, we're within 1 year now, or close to it, of GTA 6. What are you hoping for there? I know everybody's got their expectation levels and what they want. What does B-Dogs want?
I want a storyline that's fun. If you have a good storyline, usually the map is built around that good storyline, which means the map will also be good and conducive of good gameplay for online. So, a good story will create a good map, which will then create good opportunities for map creation and places to have fun in and online. Whether it be racing or doing RP or whatever, you have to find a way to meet everybody's needs on that game. And I don't really have a vision for what I want. I think that it would be really nice to have roads that are wide like what we have out in Grapeseed and GTA 5 that we can race on. As well as maybe racing through the city. I just hope that the roads conduce racing. Obviously, I hope that the creator comes back because that's a big part of GTA 5. And I don't see any reason why it won't be back. I think Rockstar realizes that if they don't bring it back, there's going to be a lot of people that don't come back to the game just because the creator is why this game's still alive.
Exactly.
Not their
I think it would be a big mistake for them to not do something along those lines for 6.
Because I can't name an update in the last 3 years that I've actually liked. It all just feels like the same recycled content
thing
over and over again.
Yeah, just with a different label.
I could definitely see. I hope that the handling also produces something that's good for racing. It doesn't have to be perfect. It definitely doesn't have to be perfect, but it has to be raceable. GTA 5 is in no stretch of the imagination a perfect game.
And here's an interesting. I want your opinion on this.
Mm-hmm.
You are a real life racer. You do sim racing.
Yeah.
You've mentioned that. How does GTA racing stack up to like any other racing games you played? Maybe even real life racing. That might sound like a stupid question, but how would you compare it?
I like GTA 5 more than I like sim racing, to be honest. It's something that I can have fun playing while also being competitive.
Competitive, yep. That's my exact.
I
opinion
obviously
on it.
will always prefer real life racing, just because there's nothing that beats being in the seat. There's nothing that beats feeling the force of the car on you. But when it comes to finding an alternative, I think I honestly prefer GTA 5. I've been getting really deep into iRacing recently, which is a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I've been in and out of iRacing the past 3 or 4 years, but now I'm getting really deep into dirt, and I went from 0 races played on dirt to now I'm in the top 1,000 players in the game on dirt in just 2 weeks. And there's 19 million people that have partaken in a dirt race. And
So hard. Dirt racing, by the way, everybody, it's probably. I've played iRacing, and it's probably the hardest thing to get into on iRacing. At least of all the things that I've tried in iRacing. It's hard. It is not easy.
It's extremely hard. And I don't know if anybody knows really how the iRating system works, but you start at 1350. In 2 weeks, I've gained almost 3,000 iRating now. I'm out at, I think, 4,200, which is just absolutely insane. But I will say that I've never. Dirt is the first time that I've actually felt like a sim race just kind of. It's the first time I've raced on a sim that has felt right. Just because sports car racing, everybody either takes it way too serious or not serious enough. Oval racing, everybody takes it way too freaking serious on iRacing. Which, I mean, some of these people take it serious because it is the closest thing they'll ever get to real racing.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, for me, that doesn't fit what I want. And that's why I'm so attracted to playing GTA, is it's just, if I want to sit back and relax and have fun but still be competitive, I can. I don't have to spend 40 hours a week focusing on one thing just to be able to race that week. I don't have to worry about being a specific status to race.
Mm-hmm.
Like, on iRacing, once you get that high I rating, you have to hold yourself to a certain level to keep it.
You got to keep it. It's almost like a job. You have to keep working at it to hold on to it, or you'll lose it.
I was very deep in short track racing and iRacing for about a year. And I ended up winning the championship for the SK Modified, I think, 3 seasons straight. But it was taxing. It just wasn't fun. You couldn't, like, every racer loves being forced to not make mistakes and having a battle with somebody. But it just kind of ruined the whole mentality of, okay, I can have fun racing. No, I have to push myself at all times or I'm screwed. And I just didn't like it. But now that I'm back on GTA, I can have that laid back atmosphere, and then when I want to be serious, I can go back on iRacing.
We got a question in chat that I want to ask as well.
Okay.
This goes along the lines of GTA 6 and like the future of GTA racing in general. And this question comes from the Motorsport Mixologist. Would you want boost to return, like curb boosting, maybe even brake boosting, any boost in the game as it currently sits, would you want those to return, or do you think that they'll put flags in the game to eliminate that kind of stuff?
That's a question I've thought a lot about. Like, boosting has a place in the game, but it also doesn't. Everybody that's ever like done insane races with boosts will understand what I'm talking about here, where you never have the feeling of having. Yeah, Kevin, you're on the wrong account. You never had the feeling of racing at speed until you've had a really fast brake boost battle in GTA and supercars. And it doesn't make you any better or worse than anybody else that you can or can't boost, because some crews allow boosting, some don't. I can go either way with it. I definitely prefer to boost more just because of the fact that it's more what I'm used to. But I don't know if I'd rather it be in the game or not be in the game. Just because if it's not in the game, then what happens if you do hit a curb on tracks that are very tight? Because part of what made GTA racing in the city so fun is being able to get as close to the walls as possible on exit over the curb. Now, you don't have to get a boost to be able to do that, but I don't exactly want curbs to launch me up in the air 40 feet when I touch them. So if the curves were kept the way they are in GTA 5 and you didn't get a boost from them, I wouldn't be upset. If that makes any sense, really.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't be upset if boosting stayed in the game, but I also understand if it is taken out.
Well, what's interesting is, as I've been going through like the research of GTA 4 to GTA 5, there actually is brake boosting and curb boosting actually exist. I believe even short shifting exists in GTA 4.
Every type of boosting that exists in 5 exists in 4.
Yep. Which almost leads me to believe that they're not going to do much in the way of how they change the physics of the cars, how the cars drive from 5 to 6.
I agree.
Yeah,
I don't think you'll see much difference from what we have now, the handling flags, all the things we have now. I think you'll see in GTA 6. I believe with these updates, they are testing out maybe little tweaks here and there, but nothing substantial. So I don't believe the jump will be that big, or at least as big as some people might be hoping for. I think it's going to be more of the same, slightly enhanced.
Yeah. I lean in towards that way too. But it also depends if they use the same engine or not. Because GTA 4 and 5 were made on the same exact engine. And if we use that engine for GTA 6, then now you know what the direction is they're going to go.
And with Rockstar purchasing 5M, they have a lot of the same control that community had over it. So I don't really envision them doing a complete revamp on any of the handling flags that they have. They might turn some on, turn some off here and there, but other than that, I don't think there's going to be a total revamp at all. I think it will be pretty much the same, and you'll see a lot of the same kind of driving characteristics that we currently have, which in a way is cool. I mean, it's a lot of what people are used to, and I'm sure a lot of people don't want to relearn or learn something completely new or completely different, but it almost makes you think like, man, maybe they should, work on some of the things like curve boosting and short shifting, and all those things are not bad things in my opinion. As a person who's spent a lot of time racing in GTA and other games, I think those give the game its interesting characteristics as compared to other racing games. but I don't know. I think it's going to stay pretty much the same.
Yeah, I could see it going a lot of different ways. I think the way that the handling properties are in this game might change, because you saw a big difference between GTA 4 and GTA 5.
Mm-hmm.
But I also could see them not changing it at all, because there's a lot of feedback from the community. They really love the handling of this game.
Mm-hmm.
But I've also seen a lot of people say that they really hate the handling of this game. I don't think the answer is... A lot of people I know seem to want to have more realistic handling in GTA, or manual transmission. That's not GTA.
No.
That's
a sim. That's
every
it.
single
If
person
you
I've
want a
seen
sim,
say this
yeah.
are people that only play 5M or played the game like once through, get on for an update for 5 minutes and never get on again.
The only people I've heard say it are the people that dive bomb every corner. I'm like, you can't even handle a corner. You want a manual transmission? Get out of here.
I take offense to it. I dive bomb every
restarts
corner.
down. Imagine restarts. God damn.
Yeah, restarts would be awful.
So, where did your love for racing come from? So you're heavily involved online. You've been involved online forever. You know, where did it start?
So, it started back when I was a kid. My mom was the one that started my addiction to racing. She raced back in the 70s and 80s and won multiple national championships in that time span in karts. Well, when she got older, she became a test driver for a small team, Team Penske.
It's a little team.
But
Nothing
when
big.
she became a test driver for them, it was mainly for sports cars. Well, she had my older brother, so that kind of set her racing career aside, and she got heavily involved with building quarter midgets. And that same team built midgets, they built Silver Crowns, they built sprint cars, and that's where she found her home. Well, when that happened, she started working for this company building these chassis, and she was going basically around the country racing and selling cars. And I came around, and she was still working for this company, and she quit back when I was about 2 years old, I think, just to focus on me. And that's when she fell out of racing. Well, her last race in a sprint car, I was 3 years old, and this is actually a kind of funny story. The guy that owned her team, well, the company she worked for, was going to Irwindale, California to race a sprint car. Asphalt sprint. And they get pulled over in an Indian reservation and arrested. Apparently, to drive through a reservation, you have to have permits, which we didn't know. And they wanted $3,000 cash to be able to free the truck that day.
My God.
Well, they had $6 million worth of cars on board that were going to some decently large customers. Justin Allgaier's family, some nobody named Kevin Harvick. So obviously that had to be done. My mom quit the company by that point, but the guy's one phone call was to her. Hey, go to the safe at the shop, because she was the only one that knew where it was that wasn't currently in jail at this reservation. So she had to fly there, get them out of jail.
Sounds like a movie.
Drive the truck to Irwindale, and my mom said, the only way that I'm doing this is if I get to drive a sprint car to Irwindale this weekend. So they drove the truck all the way from, I believe it was Yuma, Arizona, to Irwindale. and which isn't that far considering they came from
Mhm.
Akron, Ohio.
That's a long haul, man.
So they get there, she goes out and she wins her heat race. And I think she finished third or fourth in the final. I'd have to ask her.
Man.
But
Was it
that was
what was it just like a track event? Was it like a series? What like
I don't really know.
Western sprints?
I don't really know, to be honest. I believe it was just a weekly show at Irwindale at that point. This was in December, so it was in the off season for everybody else. And at this point, Irwindale was a new track because I think it was built in '97.
Mm-hmm.
But that was her last sprint car race, and she raced in sprint karts and enduro road race karts for a bit. But by the time I was 5 years old, she was completely out of sport. And then I started racing when I was about 7. I had driven karts the entire time through that span, but it was 7 when I first started racing.
First stepped in.
Yeah, and I raced all the way until I was 19 years old.
Did you enjoy it? Did you have
Oh yeah.
did you have success? Like what was that like? What was getting to be a race car driver like?
It was a lot of fun. I quickly learned like every skill that you learn in one car transfers over to the other
Mm-hmm.
in different ways than you expected. Because when I got older, I started getting into. I drove Formula V for a bit. I did a few tests in USF 2000. I raced 410 sprint cars for a bit. I raced a midget once. I raced wingless sprint cars, I think, twice.
What tracks did you race at?
Williams Grove, Port Royal, Lincoln, Eldora,
Oh.
Attica, Wayne County, Lernerville, Bridgeport.
Eldora is epic. I'm very, very jealous.
What was your experience like at Eldora?
Scared me shitless.
The
But
410 sprints are
I had a
those
lot of fun
guys
doing
are
it.
insane.
I had a hell of a lot of fun doing it.
It's probably really exciting.
I wasn't very good at it, but I had a lot of fun doing it. I ended up winning two A main features in my 410 career. One at Port Royal, one at Wayne County. I had a few more 360 wins, but it wasn't. I wasn't making enough back off of it to justify what we were spending into it. So I focused on going back into karting and stuff like that. And I got back into karts in 2021, and I haven't left.
What did you have more fun doing, karts or like sprint car racing? What have you had the most fun doing?
Karts. It's the most laid back. Everybody helps everybody. And nobody there is overly pretentious of what they are.
I feel like that's something you don't get a lot of in motorsports nowadays.
No, it's not. And when I got back into karts, it was 2021, and the track near me, I live in Mississippi now, and the track that's near me was built by Lake Speed.
Mm-hmm.
Anybody that knows racing knows who Lake Speed is.
Yep. He's a very talented kart racer.
Greatest racers' names ever.
He is the guy that went to Europe at Le Mans and beat Ayrton Senna for the World Championship. And
very, very talented. A lot of people don't know that, especially people that know NASCAR and know Lake Speed. There's like, oh yeah, Lake Speed.
I just learned that live. I just learned that.
Yep.
Yeah, and I've gotten the privilege to know Lake very well over these last few years. because this track is owned by the city of Jackson, and the city of Jackson is bankrupt as hell, and they don't care about it. Well, we took it over, and they're now. We just got grants to get it repaved, and we're getting a new fence built around it, as well as we're expanding it. The plan is to have national racing series there, like SCUSA, Stars, USPKS. Those are three series that nobody here has ever heard of, probably.
I've heard.
And our goal is to have them here by the end of next year. And we're trying to get on the Stars calendar for 2026.
Wow.
Because it won't be ready for next year, but we're going to get a test date. Stars is the series that we work closest with because they're the most realist. SCUSA, they take themselves way too serious. They think that they're as big as Formula Series at this point. And it doesn't help that the owner is a registered sex offender.
Oh my gosh.
That's why I won't go to that series ever.
Blame you?
Interesting. That's interesting.
USPKS, I like it, but it's just too expensive.
How much is it to get into something like that? Like base. Like how much money are we talking? Do you need to
in order to go
get in
national
the door?
Racing? You're gonna have to spend about $9,000 on a cart in terms of motor, tires, gauges, the cart, extra axles, extra. And this is before your gear. So you're going to spend about $12,000 total just getting spares and stuff too. And to go national racing, you need two motors. You need the practice motor and the race motor. And an entry fee is going to cost about $750 nationally.
No, I'm assuming this isn't including like licensing and.
You don't even have to pay for a license.
So you can just show up and say, hey.
Yeah. In order to go kart racing in the U.S., now this is this is entry level classes, so this is like KA 100. If you were to ever go like to 125 or shifter, you have to be a drift. But KA 100, they pretty much let anybody go out. And 99% of the time, you don't have any issue. I have yet to see anybody that is that low of experience go national racing because they probably know they're going to die. But you can go club racing and spend probably $5,000 or $6,000 on your cart. Cause if you're going club racing, just buy a used cart, to be honest. And then buy a motor and go club racing. And club fees are going to be about $100 a year, and it's probably going to cost you between $50 and $100 for an entry fee. And with that, you're going to learn a lot, and you're going to make some of the best friends you'll ever make. I've been lucky enough that I've made so many lifelong friends through karting. And now we own a series here in the Southeast. We own the kart team. We own a kart shop. And the goal is that we want to go more nationally next year and try to win a championship. This is our first year running nationally as a team. And we've got one kid that finishes consistently in the top 10 right now.
How many teams within your group do you have? Like how many karts do you bring?
So this weekend my team's actually in Cincinnati. I ended up staying home this weekend because I need to be there. And we have 4 karts there. Usually we have around 4 karts at each event. But we have, I think, let me count how many cart members we have. We have the 4 that are there. There's another one. We have 11 team members. This weekend was a Stars event at Motorsports Country Club of Cincinnati. We did absolutely terribly because as a team, none of us have ever been there. And then our next event will be at Trackhouse Motorplex in Charlotte.
Wow.
And I think we're bringing 9 carts there.
How much traveling is involved in this? I'm sure this is a pretty big effort to.
There are times that there's times that Jeremy has asked me where I'm at for TNS, and I'm on the opposite side of the country. And he'll ask me the next week where I'm at for TNS, and I'm on another portion of the country. So, like, every weekend, at some points, I'm at a different track. Like, the month of May, I go to Indianapolis. It's Indy 500 month. From there, I went to Newcastle, which is only 45 minutes from Indy. And we ran Stars there. I came back home to go then back to Mid-Ohio the next week. And then from there, we went to a test facility, our test track down in Biloxi, which is on the coast of Mississippi.
Mm-hmm.
And we've also tested at NOLA since then. I don't think I've gone anywhere else. But this year, I haven't done as much traveling as I usually do. Usually, every other weekend, I'm at a track somewhere, whether it be Speed Sports in Houston, Amarillo Kart Complex, NOLA Motorsports Park.
What's your favorite track?
We talking just kart track?
Yeah, like favorite kart place to go. Could be anywhere.
Favorite that I have raced on is probably going to be Finish Line Performance Karting in Biloxi, Mississippi. And the reason why I like it is unlike any other track I've ever raced on. It's tight, every corner is unique. It's got a long enough straight to be able to have power, but you can't take a break. It's your full focus.
You gotta be on it.
Other high ones on my list would probably be Briggs & Stratton Motorsports. Well, Briggs & Stratton Kart Complex, which is at Road America. It actually gets a downgrade because of the fact that they don't run 2-cycle there anymore. It's only it's only 4-cycle. And 4-cycle, you don't learn anything, and quite frankly, everybody can't get out of each other's way in that class. Pittsburgh International Raceway has a good kart complex. NOLA Motorsports Park has a great kart complex. And so does Newcastle Motorsports Park. But the best one is probably Biloxi to me. I might be biased because we're the only series that gets to race there, but it's just a great track. And then, if I were to go big tracks, I'm going to be heavily biased and say that Mid-Ohio is the greatest track ever built.
Like as far as real racing.
Yes. I'm heavily biased because I have thousands of laps at that place.
What kind of cars have you actually driven? I know you mentioned you did some testing with USF 2000.
I've driven pretty much every lower series car there is at some point. I did get to drive an IndyCar once. That was a lot of fun. But I haven't really. I haven't driven as much lately as I would have liked. But when I was younger, I was testing in GT4 cars. I tested a TCR car.
Mm-hmm.
I tested a Miata. I tested USF 2000, Indy Pro 2000, which at that time it was called Pro Mazda.
Mm-hmm.
I've tested Spec Racer Fords. I've tested. I did the Skip Barber Racing School.
What was that like?
It was fun. I learned a lot from it, both what to do and what not to do. But I just never. I didn't have the funding to propel my career like I wanted to.
Keep going, because I imagine it's probably a lot of money to
Yeah.
stay in there.
And then I broke my back in 2018, which kind of ended my career.
And
Um,
kind of going along the topic of like real life racing,
yeah.
you've done some stuff with IndyCar,
Yeah.
and you're pretty close with a couple people. And we were talking before the podcast. You know Connor Daly,
Yeah.
right? And tell us how you met Connor Daly, because this blew my mind.
So, well, let's talk about my first IndyCar driver I met first.
Mm-hmm.
Graham Rahal was my babysitter when we went national racing when I was a kid.
Wow.
Bobby and my mom were great friends, so when they would go out on the track, Graham would be the one watching me. So that's how I grew close to Graham Rahal. Well,
And this was probably when he was like really young too.
Yeah, he was like 14. Well, we grew out of the sport for a while, and when I went back to the track again in 2014, Graham looked at my mom and went, "Do I know you?" And that's where the explanation was made, and now I know Graham really well too. Well, I still fell out of the sport for a while because I was a kid, I was in high school, I was racing, so I didn't have time to go to races as much anymore. And in 2018, there was this small game. It got a little popular. It's called Fortnite. And I happen to play Fortnite quite frequently at this point. And I see on Twitter, I'm following Connor Daly 22, which is Connor's Twitter. And he tweets out, "Going live on Twitch, come join the games we play in Fortnite." And I go in and I see if he has any room. I follow the stream, and he had one other person in his lobby, which was some nobody named Pat McAfee. Never heard of him. And I just ask in chat, "Can I join?" And he's got like 3 people watching him. He is streaming with the biggest podcast host in America for sports podcasts.
Yeah.
And he is the most popular driver in IndyCar. He's got 3 fucking people watching him. So I asked to join. And he said, "Yeah, just send me a message." So, next
So
thing I
you're
know,
playing Fortnite with Pat McAfee and Connor Daly.
And he said, "Do you have any friends that are on that would like to join?" So I'm like, "Yeah, I got a friend that I was just playing duos with, but I saw you guys were on, so I ditched him for you guys. Because you guys are a lot cooler." And we're playing squads. And I guess Connor had a few people in over that week that played Fortnite with him. And I was the only person that he added as a friend on Xbox. And I asked him, "Why me?" And he said, "You're the only person that treated me like a normal human being and not some object because I was a driver." And this is going to go out as a lesson to everybody that if you ever meet one of your idols in racing, treat them like a normal human being, and they will probably love you forever. And when I met him, I just kept treating him like a normal human, and he added me, and we started playing actually quite frequently, like 4 or 5 times a week. And this is when Connor was jobless. His only race at this point that he had scheduled was the Indy 500 for Andretti Autosport. And actually, no, he didn't even have that. This was 2018, not 19.
I think he was running for
he was running off and on for Dale Coyne Racing.
Yeah.
Because this is after we got fired from AJ Foot. So I start playing with Connor a lot more, and Mid-Ohio comes around in 2018. And he sends me a message. You live in Ohio, right? And I told him, yeah. He said, can you get to the track? Which, at that time, I didn't really have a reliable way of getting there. But I said, yeah, I'll try to get there. He gave me one of his passes for the weekend.
Wow.
And that's where I met him. We started talking for a bit. And then 2019 comes along. And we were playing a lot of Black Ops 4 when it released. And I am a terrible Call of Duty player. I'll just get that straight out of the way. At least at that point I was. I'm a lot better now than I was. But I was an awful Call of Duty player. And we started playing COD together a lot. And one night, he gets a phone call from his agent about a job offer from Andretti Autosport. Well, Connor doesn't know how to mute his mic. I heard the entire process of how he got his ride with Andretti Autosport that year. Yeah.
And
he came back and said, you didn't hear any of that, did you? I'm like, oh, I heard all of it. He said, you know what to do. So I didn't say a damn word. I didn't even say a word to my closest friends that I knew that Connor Daly was racing for Andretti Autosport. 2 days later, it was announced. And that's where they also announced that he was going to be running the Super Trofeo season for IMSA. And as everybody that watched the race knows, Connor had probably the biggest resurgence of an Indy 500 run you could ever have that year.
Mm-hmm.
He ran in the top 10 consistently. He probably would have actually had a top 3 potentially had IndyCar had better restart rules, to be honest. Because the restart rule where lap cars keep their position kind of kills IndyCar racing. Just throwing that out there. And next year we had a ride with Ed Carpenter Racing, and the pandemic hit, so we didn't really get to do much together. But 2021, I ended up getting his passes for 3 races. So I get to go to Barber, I got to go to Mid-Ohio, and I got to go to Road America. And that was also the year I went back to the Indy 500, and I almost cried that day, to be honest. Like, seeing one of my closest friends take the lead at the Indy 500, knowing the fight that it took for us to get back to a full-time ride. Because, like, when he wasn't full-time, me and him, like, grew extremely close, and I knew him very well. And, like, we would talk about a lot of plans about how he'd get back full-time, just because I was somebody that wasn't really involved with the series, but I had my own path of trying to get into the series at that point. So I kind of lived, like, what I wanted to in my career through one of my friends being Connor Daly. And when he finally got that ride, I ended up going to a lot of races. Not as many as I would have liked, because I just didn't have the way of getting there. But seeing him lead that day was probably the best feeling I'd ever had in my life. And then we did it the next year.
He's been probably one of the better drivers at Indy, specifically at Indy, within the last like 5 or 6 years, I'd say. Like, there's a couple opportunities he had. He led a lot of laps. I think it was 2021. I think it was.
Yeah, we led 40 laps in 2021, and then we led 22 laps this year, which was sweet. And then when he made his NASCAR debut, I, of course, had to make sure I was there. Like, it's the Charlotte Roval, and my girlfriend lives in Durham, North Carolina, so we went there, and I don't even remember if we got passes or if we had to buy tickets because NASCAR is a lot more strict about who they give passes to for the infield. Mm-hmm. Actually, yeah, we had to buy tickets that year. So we ended up getting in, watching the race, and we ended up getting into the infield, and I got to talk to one of my mom's old friends, AJ Allmendinger, for a few minutes. And that's where I made that connection and got to know him. And I got to, like, I had never known AJ really at that point. I had met him a few times through my mom, but that was it. But we hung out with Connor for a few minutes and then went home. And then I guess I could talk about 2020, how I became friends with everybody. And I guess I'll tell the Jimmy Johnson story.
Yeah.
So I started a Discord in 2019. It's called the Connor Daily Discord. And it's an invite-only Discord to Connor's friends and popular people only. So in order to get into this Discord, you have to be a friend of Connor Daly, just because it's what he asked for. He didn't want fans in there, which is fair enough. I respected that, and I closed the Discord so that way it was only us. Well, 2020 hit, and everybody knows the IndyCar iRacing stuff and the NASCAR iRacing stuff, and well, the incident.
Yeah.
I was in the voice chat for the incident.
Were you in that race?
I had to play a lot of damage control for that incident. No, I was not in that race. Because I am the only mod of Connor's stream. And Connor was streaming that event.
Yep.
To 900 people.
I think his video, his POV was the one that got released first.
You
that
have no
everybody
idea
clipped
how much
and released.
how much damage control I had to play that night just to like try to keep people from starting riots in chat.
Like, holy shit.
And
were you the one that said, Kyle, you're talking to everyone, bud?
No, I didn't have iRacing at that point, so I wasn't really in the iRacing chat, but I was in the Discord voice call that everybody was in.
Oh.
And we started the server, and we had a few people join, but in 2020 is when everybody joined because everybody couldn't do anything.
Yeah, COVID.
So that's where we started the LCQ League with Travis Pastrana. It was Travis Pastrana, Landon Castle, Jim DeChamp, James Hinchcliffe, Alexander Rossi, Spencer Piggott, Ed Carpenter, Lando Norris, let's see, Robert Wickens, Chad Reed, I'm just scrolling through the list here, Colton Herta, Ari Lyondike Jr., Aaron Teelitz, Alex Pillow, Parker Kligerman, Ricky Carmichael, R.C. Anderson, Ryan Truex, Sage Karam, Sandro Coletti, Sebastian Saavedra, Stephen Wilson, Tony Kanaan, and that looks like it. Oh, and Roman Grosjean. And Scott McLaughlin. But all these people were in there. Oh, and I didn't mention Jimmy Johnson. Wait, did Jimmy leave my server? Okay, I'm no longer a Jimmy Johnson fan.
Damn, Jimmy dissed by Jimmy Johnson.
Oh, wait, no,
there it is.
How many servers can he be in? I mean...
200.
Wow.
But those are the people that all got to race at that point. And I was friends with all of them, and I was basically the person that was helping them troubleshoot all their issues they had with their PCs, because I was the only one that knew what I was doing. Well, I had taken so many days off that year for these iRacing events so I could help them that my boss was really pissed off at me. And I go in one morning, and Jimmy Johnson is calling me on the phone at 7:30. And he is telling me that I need to help him now. And it was so he could announce Carvana.
Becoming a sponsor with him.
Yeah. So everything had to go perfect. Well, I go into work, and I walk in my boss's office. I'm like, hey, I got to go home. Jimmy Johnson's on the phone. I got to help Jimmy Johnson. And he said, if you're leaving, you're not coming back. And Jimmy, without skipping a beat, says, whatever the hell that asshole is paying you, I will pay you a lot more. So I went home. I fixed Jimmy's issue and got $10,000 for it.
Jesus.
But
that was insane. I got to get into computers, man.
But that was also a multi-million-dollar deal for Jimmy.
He had to have that work perfectly.
Like, that's how he got into IndyCar. So when he worked all that out, he paid me that, and I ended up blowing through it because I was insecure with money. And I still am to this day. I'm terrible with money. I'll openly admit that. And I blew right through it because I was a 20-year-old that just got $10,000 from Jimmy Johnson. And I ended up getting a job literally that same day, working at an exotic animal park. So it all worked out, and it was somebody that I knew really well, so he would give me the hours I needed to be able to do all this stuff, which worked out. And that's how I got to where I was with everybody. I just treated them like I would treat anybody else that I game with, and we all just became friends. And now I play games with almost all these guys pretty regularly still.
That is so cool.
Is there any chance of getting these guys in Torque, or?
if any of them had PS5s, I'd try.
I'm just kidding. That's a cool story though. The last bit was interesting too. The exotic animal park. I didn't know that. Wouldn't have guessed that.
Yeah.
We might need a second episode.
Second episode, Tiger King.
I was the manager of an exotic animal park for a year.
Yeah.
I mean, I can do a second episode on the second half of GTA because I still haven't gone through everything. Like, I've done way too many things racing related in my life.
That's like the dream.
It's a passion.
Would you trade it for anything?
No. I really wouldn't. Maybe being born with more money so I could keep racing more.
Yeah. It's an expensive hobby.
It's a very expensive hobby.
Even at the highest level, they're not making money off race winnings. It's sponsorship.
Sponsorship, yeah.
Yep. It's certainly painful. But racing's expensive. It's the most expensive and most addictive drug there is. But yeah, that's pretty much it in terms of the real life stuff, unless we go into like the organization part. But there isn't much behind that right now. Just the revival of a track.
I think we pretty much covered all aspects. And
okay.
Yeah. We really extended this. This is our longest episode, I think, by the way. And obviously thank you, B-Dogs, for doing this with us.
Thanks
This wouldn't happen without our guests and everybody that watches. If anybody still is watching, I'm sure there's a few of you guys. Obviously, big thanks to you guys. Always giving us interesting questions when we might not have them in our brains. So it probably would not happen without the audience either. But yeah, surely someone must be watching. Someone said 9 people are still here. And we are at the top of the 7 o'clock hour. So, wow. Jeremy, is there anything you wanna add before we call it?
Yeah. So, I know there's still a lot to unpack, so we'll get you back in for a second episode, and we'll go further into the GTA career. You've been around a long time, obviously, and been there and through it all, done it all. like I was telling you earlier, it's an honor to have you here on the podcast, and it's definitely an honor to, also get to race with you on the weekends.
Yeah.
It was super cool to hear a little bit about you, and your mom winning national championships. That was really fun to hear. I hope you stick around. I know you're kind of debating retirement on GTA, but I personally hope you stick around. It's been an absolute pleasure having you race with us and hearing your story. So thank you again.
Yeah, it's definitely something I've contemplated a lot. So I might do another season. I'm thinking about it. I definitely have at least one more Brit Car season I'm hosting, but it all depends really on what happens with TNS season 12. Just depending on like when it is, will determine if I do it again or not. Just time of year, really.
I understand, man. It's I'm a busy guy myself, and I get it. But yeah, we appreciate you. Super cool hearing your story. Definitely a legend in the game. Obviously, we met through GTA 5, so that's the community I'm referring to.
Mm-hmm.
We appreciate you. The community appreciates you, and yeah, thanks for telling your story.
Thanks for having me.
Yep.
All right. Well, till next time. Thanks everybody for tuning in. Thank you, Wreck and Randy. Make sure anyone still watching goes and subs to him.
Can I mention one thing real quick?
Absolutely.
So, it's kind of something funny about when I first listened to the Gamerstig episode of the podcast. When he went out and said that he implores anybody to go out and get the world record on Black Dog in a lawnmower. He said, if anybody wants to waste a half hour of your time going for this world record, be my guest. Well, I decided to make Gamerstig the second for life that he always strives to be.
Oh no! No!
And took his record.
Randy, how did we miss this? I'm so glad you brought that up. So Black Dog is a track by Daniel Plainview. It's a renowned track for hot lapping. As a meme, Gamerstig, or person that we did on episode 3, he did a lap in a lawnmower, set a time that held for years, and B-Dogs recently broke that. So if you're interested in wasting a half an hour of your life, as the challenge was once put eloquently, go ahead and run that track in a lawnmower, take a screenshot, and see if you could beat the time that B-Dogs put up. Now,
I will say that this is no shade to Gamerstig. This is fully a joke, by the way. It was, I just heard it and I died laughing, and I figured why not make it a joke with the podcast to try to take his record, since I'm going to be a guest here soon.
Well,
so
I think we need to have our guests do that.
That's
maybe just make them run and laugh.
Maybe that could be a meme challenge too, to get a episode on the podcast if you beat the record on Black Dog in a lawnmower.
Maybe that'd be the next hot lap challenge, Torque hot lap challenge.
Let's do it.
But yeah, thank you for having me.
Yeah, of course.
It was a good one.
Thank you. And yeah, everybody tuning in, thank you. And we'll hopefully see you on the next one.
Yep.